survivors, and welcome to First Aid Spray, a Resident Evil podcast by fans for fans. This is a non-numbered bonus episode where we will be giving our first impressions of Resident Evil 4 Remake by way of the brand new Chainsaw demo. My name is Sai, and joining me on the panel this week, it's James, aka Moist Owlet.
Hello.
And Michael Burger Time Early.
Where'd everybody go? Bingo?
Correct, yes. Every episode of First Aid Spray is recorded live on our Discord server, so join now to hear the show early and unedited and to become part of our fantastic little community where we discuss life, the universe, and Resident Evil. You can find a link to the server as well as all our social media profiles at our website, faspraypod.com. It's the support of our listeners that keeps First Aid Spray going, so why not check out our merchandise or our Patreon page. Tiers begin at just $1 a month. Head over to patreon.com/faspraypod for a full list and the chance to create bonus First Aid Spray content. No fancy intros, no news, no nothing. Let's get right into it. The Resident Evil 4 Remake demo is here, as anticipated. We first heard about it on the PlayStation State of Play a couple of weeks ago, that a special demo was coming, and then a couple of days ago we had the Capcom Spotlight, where there wasn't any new information on RE4, which is fine. We're now, less than 2 weeks away from the release after all, so in a way, if you've listened to our previous episode, thank goodness we didn't get yet another trailer. But this special demo was revealed to be the Chainsaw demo. Again, sort of as expected, it's the village section of the game. I guess, first of all, before we even get into the demo itself, I just want to point out how funny it was that they advertised it as with no time limit. That should not be a selling point, but sure, okay.
Well, when the last couple have all had time limits to them, like time limits one playthrough,
yeah,
forget it.
I know their demo practices recently have, over the last few years, have been a little weird and wonky.
They've still done some really weird, wonky stuff with this demo as well.
That is fair. That's valid. Okay, cool. So what we're probably just going to kind of do is go through sort of chronologically through the demo. So the first place to start is with the opening video, which we have to assume is probably, surely it's the opening video for the full game as well. We don't know if there's any stuff that's been taken out or put in, but genuine, I think big improvement for me personally over the original game. I know we've got the advancement of technology in that, so it's cool that we get to see some actual scenes of Leon being trained and seeing him training with Krauser and meeting the president and stuff. But actually, there's another thing we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, how do we feel about the opening video for RE4R Burger? How are you feeling about it as a setup? Did it get you excited?
Absolutely. I, for one, had no idea that Leon had a history with this particular organization. This is the first time I'd ever played a Resident Evil game. And so it was sort of a good... I'm kidding, obviously. No, I thought it was great. It was a really great... assuming people who pick up the game hadn't played at the very least, Resident Evil Remake, it's a good way to bring them into it. It teaches you who Leon is. You actually... I was wondering if that content was from Resident Evil 6, at least the scene with the president, because I recognize that with the president putting his arm on his shoulder.
It's funny that you say that. I've seen some people saying, oh, well, that's reused from Infinite Darkness.
Okay.
No, but my brain went, yeah, I think you're right. And then this morning I scanned through the 4 episodes of Infinite Darkness, and I didn't see that. So it is actually, it's more reminiscent of a scene from the beginning of Resident Evil 6. That's a different president by this point. So, I don't know, something about Resident Evil and the Oval Office in pitch blackness seems to be a thing. Apparently, they just seem to think the presidents just sit in the dark, I guess.
At night.
Yeah, maybe. Everything's done under the cover of darkness.
That's why they call it Infinite Darkness, Si.
Yeah, okay, I guess. That's like a point.
So Infinite Darkness also has a color palette to it, and that color palette is a dark blue.
Yes.
Which is very similar to that opening scene, which is why some people might have a connection, drawn a connection to.
And there's obviously there's the whole part of the first episode where they're in the White House and all the power goes off. So I do get it, but yeah, I scanned through and I couldn't, unless I missed it, I couldn't see that scene. So I don't think that's been reused, or I actually scrolled through the trailers for Infinite Darkness to see if it was from there, and I couldn't see it. So no, I think people were just getting combobulated with stuff that we've already seen that just happens to be similar.
Yeah, I'm really sorry you had to do that.
Yeah, broke my heart. James, how do you feel about the intro video?
Yeah, it was great. We got some cool little. The training scenes really interested me. They really felt like Operation Javier was being referenced there, like hard, like in that intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, however, feel like in terms of the monologue from Leon, it felt very W.S. Anderson. Like in terms of like what
especially
he was
with this
saying.
big like umbrella logo on the screen and
then the explosion as well, like yeah. But yeah, I felt very much like that. So I feel like this is common, by the way, with recent demos, is that there's always an intro where the protag or somebody explains the overarching story of what's happened. So when you play, you kind of get an idea of what world you're in. So I wouldn't be surprised if this has been cut majorly, like just chopped up, and then just put into the demo to give people an idea. Because I think the intro to this game is probably going to give us quite a lot of information. I mean, I hope it does anyway. But yeah, it was nice. It was a good demo. It was a good intro to the demo. Yeah, it was very clean as well.
yeah.
Like it was like it wasn't choppy. It was like it was a really nice, like the first scene where you're looking over the woods, which I think might be Arclay, maybe. Like
I don't know. Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah. Nice to see that in the RE engine for the first time as well, I suppose, if so.
Yeah, and it was like I also feel like that was kind of a callback, maybe, to Netflix Resident Evil as well, because they did a similar kind of passover of a familiar forest as well. Yeah, so I enjoyed it. It was a nice.
Yeah, I don't think it was funny actually, because it didn't get me grab. I'm not going to say that it wasn't bad by any means. It just felt natural to me. I was just like, yeah, this is exactly what, like even the new scenes, because it kind of goes from RE2 footage into new stuff. I just felt like, yeah, this makes sense. So it was nothing that was like, wow. It was cool to see Krauser in there to lay that seed a little early and kind of establish that relationship now earlier on, even if it is just in that intro. That was good, because Krauser just sort of comes out of nowhere in the original game. What's the most interesting?
Really ex-best friends.
Yeah. What I think was most interesting about it is the RE4 Originals intro video, infamous for having the most controversial lore moment of all time, where Leon says, "Oh yeah," and then the stock market's killed Umbrella. Anyway, moving on. That's not in here at all. This is cool because he's talking about his own experiences and how it's sort of shaped him. I like that better, but there's no mention of Umbrella or what happened to them. So that's interesting in terms of, are they just not mentioning it, or is there big crazy conspiracy? Is there going to be a big change in the lore? Is RE4 going to be the one that kind of like separates the two timelines, if it were?
I'd love that.
I think it'd be cool. I do believe it was an intentional choice not to really like harp on the Umbrella stuff.
I think so, yeah.
It's very clearly because like, like it's not really pertinent to Resident Evil 4.
Well, it will come up later because there was mentions in the original game of Umbrella a little bit, but It remains to be seen, of course, whether that's continued to be downplayed or it was left off the intro for other reasons. I don't know, but it definitely stood out to me because I was waiting for.
Umbrella killed the stock market.
Yeah, the stock market, the deadly stock market, and it never came. So I thought it's just an interesting thing to point out.
Then some lady from the early 2000s got cloned, and then she became the hero of the world.
The end. Okay, cool. So that's the intro out of the way. So I sort of expected the demo to just sort of drop us on the little pathway before the village, and it was just going to be really short, just that little bit of combat. But we actually get a bit of a lead up into it. What is probably the moment you first take control of Leon in the game, because it's leading you into encountering a Ganado for the first time, like in the original game, but actually completely different, and then down some winding paths to the village. James, how do you feel about this? Presuming that this is taking control of RE4 from here onwards. How do you feel about the intro to the game?
Oh, I loved it. Like it reminded me of the beginning of Resident Evil Village so much. Like, because the beginning of Resi Village is you basically crawling and just pushing like through a forest, and the beginning is very much like that as well, where you kind of see the devastation around this place. The theme and the atmosphere is immediately set with like this cow that's dead on the ground, like seemingly been ritualistically killed, maybe because it's on like a low altar or dais. Yeah, and there's like the signs of the Illuminados are everywhere here. But I mean, that's like the original game. The original game was the same, but it feels different in a good way.
Yeah.
Like in this game, like they've really pushed and kind of settled into the horror aspect of the game. And then when you get into the first house, you get a choice. You get a bunch of like kind of lore items that you can kind of have a look at. There's a bunch. I don't know if folks have had like look at their comms in their tab menu, but there's like information about why Leon was sent there in a little note as well.
Huh.
Yeah, there's like even a comms section. No, it doesn't have anything in it, but I think like that's going to be a place where you can kind of look at previous conversations with Hunnigan and whoever else is going to ring you up. Yeah, and then there's the note section where that mission briefing is. There's nothing else there though. Yeah, and it's still like you go through that. You keep going through that house. There's like a little, there's a little like kind of foreshadow that you're gonna need like a key, and yeah, then you think you're gonna fight that first Ganado, but Leon ends up just murdering him and taking his key. Yeah, and going down to that basement again, it's like that bit. Again, I'm going to bring up Village. It's like that bit where you're kind of crawling through the basement of that house, and you see all those people, like dead people, like villagers underneath in the basement, right? And you go down and you see that the first Ganado with his head, with the Wibblies on his head, or rather Pre-Wibbly, actually. Yeah, that's the scientific term.
Pre-Wibbly Ganado.
Pre-Wibbly Ganado. Yeah, and I remember coming against him the first time and almost dying to him. Immediately.
Yes. Similar experience here, definitely.
Yeah,
the atmosphere is great. As you say, the sort of Ganado and the Illuminado sort of iconography and evidence is pretty dense, which is good. Almost just getting to that first Ganado, on repeat playthroughs, not so much, but when you'll go at taking it nice and slow the first time, feels sort of there's more to it. It's not a straight line, there's a little bit of a wind to it. It's kind of cool to actually get to explore. You can look on either side of the building, and that's kind of nice. And then that first sort of encounter does actually remind me of Village quite a lot. And yes, I also barely made it out. And furthermore, after that, when you get out, there's an optional room for you to go in where there's like 2 more, and I was like, oh, cool, there goes all my ammo. Berger, how did you find the intro to the demo?
I absolutely loved it. For a lot of the same reasons James commented, I'm going to go ahead and throw in the fact that it a little bit reminded me of Remake 3, where you get a moment to kind of familiarize yourself with the game in a familiar setting. Now, I use Remake 3 as an example because it was also a third-person action game.
Yeah.
As opposed to a first-person action game. I'm thrilled. Absolutely. Like, there's so much wonderful characterization. That the performance of Leon in that first few minutes of the game was wonderful. Like really appreciated the fact that he was able to he saw the person and reacted like kind of like, still like a cop in that moment, because he trained. There's that moment. There's a really quick moment when he gets jumped and the guy walks by and you see him take his hand off his firearm. Like, I don't know if you all noticed that bit where he's like, he had his hand on it, but he pulled it away. He's like, hey, I'm looking for a police officer. He says it in Spanish, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a disrespectful Spanish way. It was somebody who probably didn't speak it as a first language, and was just, again, trying to communicate the information. I blown away by the visuals of the Remake engine, as always. There were some familiar assets, which is fine. and expected. That first fight, I also almost died. I think he nommed on me twice. Before I was able to get through him, because it was not expecting him to be as fast or as quick as he was. Yeah, I'm just going through it. I'm like thrilled. I can't wait to play more.
It's a good point you bring up. That I was gonna point out, but you just reminded me. When if you compare, it's one of my criticisms of the original, because in the original it just feels like Leon walks into somebody's house.
Yeah.
He just walked into somebody's house and he's like, "Oh, have you seen this girl?" And like it's it's a little bit disjointed and a bit strange, right? But in this demo, it fits because the house looks derelict.
Yeah.
Not. There's no light coming out of it. Like it looks derelict. He's just going in there and it feels very natural. Like the way he goes in there and even the guy that the Ganado himself doesn't seem to be that perturbed, which is also really creepy. And
I want to comment on that too. Now I'm saying this because I've been watching The Last of Us on HBO, and it's probably not culturally relevant. Somebody's watching this podcast in like 10 years, but I think the behavior of that Ganados was fascinating to me because at first it doesn't register Leon as a threat, right? And so it kind of is. Because I don't get the impression that they're still entirely human. It's very obviously it's being controlled somehow by something else that it registers Leon as present, and then there's a moment of processing of I guess thinking about internalizing of orders getting processed and then being oh that's somebody who we don't want to be here, and then it attacks when his back is turned, which I thought was neat.
Yeah, I loved Leon's moment of, as you say, he speaks to this dude, and then once he's not really getting a response and he's like something's up, then he looks around the room and goes, oh okay, this is not good, because there's various half dissected animals and whatever else, so that was kind of cool. So from there obviously we sort of leave the building with Ganado in tow, and make our way down to the village, sort of figure out how to play the game. We'll obviously talk about gameplay in a little bit as well, in general. But then we approach, what is undoubtedly the most iconic moment of Resident Evil 4, with the village, with the poor burning police officer, and eventually the introduction of our, very favourite chainsaw-wielding Ganado. Berger, how did you feel about the village showdown? This is something that, they have to get right. Do you feel like...
I think they did. Yeah, absolutely.
Stuck the landing.
It really both harken back to memory. I played a lot of Resident Evil 4. It was one of two games I owned on a GameCube for the short time that I owned a GameCube. The other one was Resident Evil Remake.
Nice.
I was shook a little bit by how different it was. Not only visually, which of course the game absolutely looks terribly stunning. We mentioned this earlier when we were just shooting the breeze, that it blows me away. Absolutely does. But just in terms of it was a little more open than I remember it being. Enemies, while Resident Evil 4 Classic had at the time some pretty revolutionary AI stuff. I felt like harried the whole time. You can't really police them at all. They will go around you and get behind you and attack. I died twice before I was able to beat the demo.
Nice.
Which has not happened to me before.
Yeah, it's actually interesting you say about sort of space and stuff, and I think maybe that's true, and maybe that's to do with the fact that you've got a lot more freedom of movement in this game compared to the original RE4, which obviously is tank controls, whereas this, full 360, you can run towards the screen and that kind of thing, and so you need that space to be able to move. But similarly, to that end, it is very easy to get overwhelmed by Ganados coming at you from different angles and around corners, which speaks to the greatness of the location, but also yeah, perhaps the AI, that it's so easy to get surrounded despite the fact that you've got all this movement. It's just so fluid. It's a great balance. James, how do you feel about the Pueblo fight?
Just to touch on like the point Berger and yourself were making about like the AI and stuff. Like, yeah, it took me a couple tries, but yeah, the amount of times I would go into, I mean, playing Aliens Fireteam Elite like teaches you to basically bottleneck and how to bottleneck quite well. And I've been trying to do it in this demo, and it can be done, but it's really difficult. You have to be patient, which is something when you've got 20 plus Ganadas around you, is something that you can't really do. But yeah, it's insane. The whatever the programming is behind these enemies is great and terrifying at the same time. I played, I think, I mean, I'll put myself out here. I think out of everybody on the podcast, I've played this demo so much. Like it's so, and the village section is my favorite part. Trying to find ways that you can basically bottleneck or get away from these guys is very difficult.
You really can't.
And
Like
there is only one section that you can, and you can't stay there for long, and that is the shotty house where the shotgun is. Yeah.
Wait, there's a shotgun in that house?
Yeah. So when you go into the house and there's like you have to close the door on the guy.
Yeah.
There's a shotgun in that house.
I didn't know that.
You go up the stairs and the window just on your right. If you go out there, right, and then go on your right again, that is a sweet spot. But you can only stay there for so long because they will always, because your back is turned towards the courtyard.
Yep.
Right, and you can't go onto the roof because they will throw axes at you. Right, so you have to stay on the causeway. Right, and you have to basically wait for them to come through the window, or Sally to come, or Dr. Salvador to come through, right, and blast him a couple times. But then they're going to overwhelm you, and you have to jump off the roof, and then you have to make another circuit, right, and you have to try and not die.
Yeah.
And then you have to do it all over again, and it makes the gameplay not repetitive. Like sometimes I can't even get through that. Because they're so smart. Like there is no reading them. I've done precise pathing to go through that first area to try hug to the left, hug to the right, seeing how the AI reacts. Right, it's always different. There is never. There are triggered moments like when you go into I call it the siege house. When you go into the siege house, it triggers the chainsaw. Dr. Salvatore. There's a lady. There's two ladies who you can stealth kill. But other than that, and the flaming cow.
Yeah.
Other than that, like there isn't really any triggered points. Right?
There's one I noticed. He's Dr. Salvatore. If you go under the, there's like an overpass that he'll cut the overpass down behind him when he goes through it.
There's actually two of those.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
yeah. There's that one. In the shotty house, and if he's around you, because it's only when he's in the vicinity. If you go on the other, literally opposite that house. And you try and go around there, you know where the well is. Mm-hmm. If you go and try and go around there, he does it again, and he actually cuts off your loop there. Like he completely brings down like the wall there. Yeah, so I haven't found any more though, but yeah, the AI is great.
That stuff's really interesting to me because I had a similar experience in the sense that I've played it a few times and I've always done something different because there is a variety of places that you can go. I concentrated on behind the shotgun house and all that area, and I tried to stave them off from the house on the opposite side of the village as well. I've done a playthrough where I've tried to stay on the roofs a lot. So that's, and again, so the AI reacts completely differently every time. Even if you were meant to, do the same thing over and over again, I'm sure it does it differently. The thing that you say there about him bringing down some of the scenery, I wonder if that stuff sort of sticks around, like because we have to come back through here. I mean, if we're going by the original game, you come through here at least once more. I don't think anything particularly happens, but you have to come back through to get to the church. So I wonder if that stuff stays the way it does. I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world if it does. Like you can get out another way, so it is cool for that environment to be destructible.
Yeah, there's like the ladders as well. The ladders, that's the thing that they've brought in from the original. Right, but you can juggle the ladders, right? But again, you can only do it for so long because they're so fast and they're so smart, like that you have to just book it. But yeah, in this demo, I really feel like the courtyard section, because before that it's kind of all new. It felt very new to me anyway.
Yeah.
But the courtyard section, this is a theory of mine, but I feel like they made it harder than the actual main game is going to be, just because they wanted you to kind of repeat play it, because there are unlockables in this game. So I think they might have wanted to make it a little, like, pump it up a little bit, because man, I have shot so many kneecaps and so many heads, like, and they just sometimes do not want to stumble. They just.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I think the game is going to be just as challenging as it was. I always remembered Resident Evil 4 as being at the very least on the onset of the game, quite challenging. Just by virtue of the fact that for the time, it was very easy to get surrounded and overwhelmed. But we're in almost 20 years after that game came out. So technology being what it is, and how responsive games are, I definitely see this as potentially the way that the whole game can go, because you have to think about the escalation of powers too, because you're not only going to be Leon with a handgun or a shotgun or a submachine gun, and you're not only going to be fighting against Ganados whose heads don't turn into giant whip-like snakes, or other monsters. Who's to say they're not going to add new monsters? Given the track record of remakes, they might not. But
yeah, it's an interesting point. And I mean, to be fair, in general, you need that sort of panic. It's part of RE4, it's part of that area. But especially when it's something that could be potentially familiar, you want to throw old players, returning players off. Especially when a lot of this is probably the area that is most like the original in the game, I would expect, because it's so iconic that they couldn't mess with it too much. I mean, for goodness sake, not only is the shotgun in the right place, there's a grenade on the left of it, which is that is exactly the same. Stuff like that's really cool. But it feels also fresh because of the panic feeling in the new gameplay.
Yeah, they've also the loot spawns are completely random as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can come into a playthrough, even on Mad Chainsaw, and I can get 4 grenades.
Nice.
And then sometimes I can get no grenades. Well, I can get 1 grenade. It's the one that's always in that cupboard. But otherwise, I'm not really sure how the loot system works right now. I had a theory that there was a pool of loot. But yeah,
that's a cool idea. It could be. I imagine that is going to be different in the game, because I expect the game will have the same sort of adaptive difficulty from the original, where it'll give you sort of what you need. With the demo, obviously, it's hard to do that because just playing it in short bursts. But it's an interesting idea, certainly. I guess just let's talk about gameplay more in general. James, how do you feel about the way that 4R plays? Does it feel, I guess, comfortable? Does it feel how you expected?
So I'm playing on PC on keyboard and mouse. I'm gonna talk about the negatives first before I talk about the positives, because I have way less negatives to say.
Yeah.
So the negatives are, it's a bit clunky to go to traverse sometimes with the keyboard and mouse. E is crouch, and I understand on the controller it's a bit finicky as well. And thing is, it doesn't flow. If I am running, I cannot run and crouch at the same time. It will just cancel the animation, and it looks a bit jarring, which can be very off-putting. So you have to basically pause and stop to crouch, which is strange. And the other thing that I want to that's like a really small thing and not a big deal. Probably only really a big problem to me, because I'm likely going to speedrun this game. The other big thing, and this is quite a big thing for me, and that's parrying. Now I'm going to talk the positives of parrying, right? But I want to talk about the small negatives first. You are not super rewarded for parrying in this game, not as much as you should be. If you are surrounded, or rather, let's not talk about being surrounded. If you just have 2 Ganados in front of you right now at equal rates in front of you, and you parry one, you cannot parry the other because you're in the middle of an animation, and the other guy can just pelt you. In fact, I've had a situation where I've parried, and then the guy is immediately who I parried has just hit me with a shovel because he was in the middle of an animation. And I think maybe the game the coding is a bit wonky in that respect. I don't understand really how it works because sometimes I can parry and I don't get that automatic riposte melee hit, and sometimes it doesn't work, and there's a consistency problem there. Yeah, I parried it a lot. Like, it's super cool to. I'll get onto the positives now. It's super cool to parry the pikes that the forks that they have, the axes out of the air. Like I've parried the Mad Chainsaw Man and normal Sally. Really cool. Like, it's so cool to do that. He even, when you do that, his chainsaw stalls. So he sits there and he's like, trying to get it going again. Really cool. And it feels impactful, but I wish it was a little bit more impactful. And maybe this is my Dark Souls brain talking, because, about the same time, if you parry, like, the next obvious thing that you do is riposte. Like, and sometimes this game doesn't allow you to do that. So that kind of sucks. Now we'll get on to kind of the difficulty that they've given you when it comes to the gameplay, which I love. Like, you might think that you hit that kneecap, right? But you might have been a little bit to the left or right, just like the original. Yeah. Like, it feels very like the OG game, like, in that respect. You can, if you don't hit them in the head directly in the temple, they're not going to get stumbled. If you hit them twice, like, and it doesn't hit the forehead, then yeah, you might get something. But yeah, you have to be accurate. And if you want those melee kills or those melee hits, I do love that. It ups the difficulty quite a lot. It is kind of jarring sometimes when you try and melee kill and you are just, you get in the middle of the animation and you don't have iframes for a certain part of that beginning of the animation, and sometimes the villagers just knock you out of it. That feels unrewarding, considering the OG game was very, very rewarding in that way. Like, if you press that button, that prompt, you had iframes and you could do what you wanted, and that was super fun. Sorry, I realized there's probably that was 3 negatives there. The guns feel fantastic. The pistol feels great. There is a shake to Leon, so he's still a little bit wet behind the ears. Like, when you start this demo, like, I remember his crosshairs first appearing on my screen, and I saw his gun shake, and maybe that was because of the situation that he was in, right? Because I didn't notice it really again, but his reticule, like, zeroing in is also, like, it's very slow, which I assume we're going to get upgrades for that, so it's faster, just like the other.
Could be different weapons as well, to be fair. Could be about what gun he's got.
Yeah. And the shotgun feels really heavy and feels really nice. I wish it packed a little bit more punch, but again, this might be because it's demo.
Yeah, again, that's the same thing for me. I agree with the shotgun thing, but I think, again, they have to put it in that position where you get better shotguns later anyway, don't you? So, but I agree, like, it's not a great crowd control thing like it should be.
And then you have the Tump.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The TMP is so good. I've actually managed, when I first got the TMP, which you get, by the way, from going down a well after discarding all of your inventory, and then it's open to you for every other subsequent demo. It's just in your inventory. You can just wail on normal Sally with that thing, and it destroys him.
Yeah.
It's very fun to mess with. Sorry, I've spoken for a long time, but yeah, I was just trying to, like, the technical side of it, I was trying to think about. But yeah, you guys go ahead, because I've spoken long enough.
I just wanted to say quickly, the Ganado thing with being able to execute a melee or being in the position to execute a melee, to stun them and stuff. I wonder if that's a lesson they learned from RE2R, because obviously the zombies in that are really spongy. So I think they've made the Ganado a little bit harder to. Yeah, I think accuracy is probably more a precision thing this time. which again amps up that terror because you can't just go around kicking them all in the face instantly like you could do before.
I'm wondering if we'll get like a stopping power skill or like some kind of stopping power like the previous games on the guns, like upgrades and things. So it makes that a little bit easier for you.
It'd be cool. Burger, how are you feeling about the gameplay?
What more can be said? That has not already been said. I love it. I am playing it on a... No, I was teasing you, brother. I love it. I'm playing on a controller. I have not updated my control scheme in any capacity. I was going in kind of raw, as it were. It's a little awkward, but I don't hate it. I play a lot of video games, so I'm used to adjusting to a control scheme. In terms of the pacing of the gameplay and the spread of events and stuff around the area, I thought it was awesome. I completely forgot about the shotgun. Like I wasn't even thinking about it because again, there's that moment of panic, which I believe in, especially in the modern age of Resident Evil, is important. Thinking back to Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 7 didn't have that for initial, I don't think. But Remake 2 all have that initial like burst of kinetic energy as you get your quiet space where you familiarize yourself with the game. In Resident Evil, in Remake 2 even, that's the gas station, right? And then you're kind of thrown into it, which I think is awesome. I do believe that that's a really great way for the game to teach you its mechanics and how to play itself. I think the fact that there's so many little secrets hidden away in just this tiny little demo is wonderful. Leon looks great. I think we mentioned that already. I do think it's cool that it's just like he does look older than he did in Remake 2. Less fresh faced, still young though. He does look angry in his like natural pose. I was playing with the photo mode earlier, and he does have an angry face.
I'm angry.
Him angry. Again, I can't get over the AI. Like the AI is such an improvement over Village. I feel like, and just even again model diversity that you see in the demo too. I think is higher than you saw in almost all of Village. I felt like Village was like 3 villagers.
Yeah. Actually, can I quickly say something that I noticed with and I'm going to talk about my theory again, guys, because I think it's only reuse of assets. But if you watch the Ganados, they actually dodge the same way the Lycans do in Village.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think
like exactly the same way.
Probably is reuse of animation, but yeah, like. I agree. I try not to be too harsh on Village throughout for its reuse of stuff in general. The voice actor one is the one for me that I'm not massively keen on. But in terms of not many Lycan looks and stuff like that, considering it was developed during a pandemic, we can all be a bit more forgiving on it, I'm sure. But yes, I agree. Actually, the Ganados do feel more threatening than the Lycans in a way because the Lycans are fast, but they do kind of just wait their turn a little bit. Whereas Ganados, when they crowd around you, it's terrifying.
They're
absolutely terrifying. Yeah, they really are. We touched on it a little bit. The new sort of form. You've got this like broken neck Ganado sort of thing.
Oh my goodness!
It's like an in between between just your standard villager and your pre-Wibbly apparently.
So unsettling.
Yeah, it's not great. So hopefully we get a name for this form or whatever, or we'll just call it pre-Wibbly, I guess. But yeah, those things are cool, but also awful.
Interesting thing with those guys, by the way, and something I really love is that they've kept the sound of the dying Ganado from the OG game and with those pre-Wibblies.
Oh really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so when in original RE, and it's kind of very similar to RE6 as well. But when things die in Resident Evil 4, they make this like clicky sound. And yeah, the pre-Wibblies also have that sound. It's subtle, right? But listen to the first pre-Wibbly that you find. I love that we're calling them pre-Wibblies.
Canon now.
the first pre-Wibbly that you come across, listen very carefully before it actually comes out down the stairs, and you'll start hearing it clicking. Like a clicker from The Last of Us, actually. It's very similar.
That's cool. To pick up on something that you... Oh, go ahead, Berger, you go.
No, I was as an observational, like...
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, yes, I'm going to pick up on something else you were saying, James. Is that I agree that the parry system is not great. That's how I put it. It's a little all over the place. It's not overly rewarding, and I find that the window. I mean, obviously the window varies depending on what it is, and maybe it should be that way. But some of them are obscenely tight. Like, I've really struggled to
Yeah.
pull off too many in the ways of parry, and most of the time, as you say, it's not overly worth it. It's not like it makes a big difference. Usually, it's better to just
Right.
run.
I don't. I don't like that the. I don't like that there's a parry mechanic where that requires the knife to use. But also your knife breaks if you use it.
Yeah.
To defend yourself. I dislike that a great deal. I will say that much. Because like once you run out of that, you don't even have like that Jill Valentine like dash that she had in Remake.
Right.
Like you have no other ways to escape or generally avoid enemies. Because if you try to if you can't shoulder past them or anything because you do. There's a lot of them around.
Yeah.
Oh, also the sorry, but the when they're on the ground, prompts are bad. Like, the game sometimes, like 1 out of 5 times, it'll give you the prompt to stab him in the neck.
Yeah, I wonder what the
Right.
reason behind when it does. I guess it's a certain amount of
Yeah.
damage, but I have to say though, I love that that's a thing because that is how most people play RE4 is stun them, melee them, and then just slash them to death until they don't get back
Yeah.
up. I love that that's now just a kill animation, which is great. And actually, to be fair, I actually quite like. And this is coming from me, person who enjoyed Breath of the Wild's weapon degradation system. I like that the knife degrades in this because it makes those moments more valuable. Obviously, it depends on what that kind of, in the context of the full game, what that's going to be like. Like, I assume we have to be able to repair a broken knife, how easy that is, how easy it is to sort of increase its durability or something like that. But yeah, like as a system, that kind of speaks to me. But we'll have to wait until the full game to see how it pans out because in terms of the demo, it was a little bit like, oh, first.
Yeah, you get like 4 stabs and then you're without your knife. Now, if there was a second knife or somewhere in the demo, which I think James mentioned, there's one at the bottom of the well that I didn't get to.
Okay.
Not a good one, by the way.
okay.
It's a kitchen knife.
Oh, okay. I see. Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know what Capcom is doing. Right. I disagree wholeheartedly with the degrading of knives. It makes no sense. However, if say there was a note in this game that said, "Oh, there's an iron shortage in the U.S. from the years of 1998 to 2004," right? So all the iron is pig iron. I'd be like, "Okay, I get it. That's cool. Whatever."
Yeah, it's Marvin's
choice.
knife. It's Marvin's knife, and apparently Marvin's knife is just crap. It's just rubbish. So, although apparently Leon got out of Raccoon City with it, so it can't have been that bad. Like he did all of RE2. It's just now when it's bad. So yeah,
It's
Like
that
European
it's
air.
Yeah, it's that hot, not Spain weather.
Yeah, it's degrading it. Yeah, I think in terms of gameplay, in general, it's really fun, which is what you want it to be. It does feel like RE4. It's very familiar. But there's enough different to it, obviously going on. It's as a taster, it's incredibly exciting. As a demo, as obviously, and James, you mentioned the TMP that you can find. There's also there's other bits and pieces apparently that can be done. I mean, obviously, there's Mad Chainsaw mode, which is this weird unlockable that will just randomly occur depending. It's just luck based, it seems, depending on when you start a new game on the demo. You'll be offered to play Mad Chainsaw mode, which mostly just means if you want to play that mode, you just have to boot the demo up and exit out over and over again until it comes up. And this is the Madhouse mode, I guess, of RE4. Berger and I tried it once or whatever and died in the first room. It's not great. James, how's your experience been with Mad Chainsaw?
I have tried it, I think, upwards of 15 times now. I've done it a lot. And I've only just been told about someone told me about the TMP and the FAS Discord, which I am very thankful for because It makes the TMP does make it easier, but it's still difficult. Like,
Yeah.
I've only had 2 attempts with the TMP in Mad Chainsaw mode so far, but it's still difficult. But yeah, you basically in Mad Chainsaw mode don't try and kill anything, guys. Just don't.
You just got to
Like,
survive.
there's no point. Like, I literally, you know, the loot house just before the village, where there's like one guy that comes out and goes, "Brr," you know,
Yeah.
tries to get you. Yeah, I shot that guy in the face 5 times and he didn't get stumbled. Like, I was just like, okay, I get it. I'm not meant to kill anything.
Yeah.
I'm just meant to just run away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the game. It is going into there, rushing through, getting as much loot as you can before you get overwhelmed, and then doing circuits around the siege house, getting into that little nook that I told you about earlier on, doing damage if you can with the TMP, which is my tactic right now. I'm trying to do, but yeah, the Mad Chainsaw, he's so fast. He's so fast, and he like everything else is fast as well. And if you get like hit with an axe, you get hit with a pitchfork, you get hit with anything, if you take another hit, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very tough. Yeah, but the game does give you tools to deal with it. Like you can still stagger the Mad Chainsaw guy. You can still stagger him. You can still stagger other people with a shotgun to the face. However, that only happens about 50% of the time. Also, the Mad Chainsaw guy, as well as regular Sally, puts a chainsaw up to their head, like the original, to block hits, which is cool.
Yeah.
I noticed. But yeah, you just have to get. I do feel you just have to get lucky with the AI sometimes. As I mentioned earlier on, pre-call, I got 4 grenades. Like at one point, and that still wasn't enough. That still wasn't enough, but it might have been because in the original game, spacing out explosions is key. And I didn't do that. I just rained like grenades in, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw them
all of my grenades all at once.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just orbital striking. Another good tactic is to, and it's thanks to Greenman actually, who put it in their clip. I don't know if they realized they did it, but where the cow is, if you don't blast that lantern immediately. That's in there. Wait until you've got 7 to 10 Ganados. Head into it with them behind you, blast it and run through it, and you'll either kill or get some very low.
Yeah.
It's
however,
it's a bit inconsistent because there is another oil lantern there that's a light and you can't shoot it. So Capcom, what's going on?
That is
You know,
I want to comment on something we hadn't mentioned in this mode because we didn't mention it earlier. When the Chainsaw Man appears, villagers will hold you for him.
Yes, that's cool.
And they also hold you, by the way, for the pitchfork ladies.
Pitchforks, yeah.
Oh no.
It's cool. Makes sense against as it should be. These are not zombies. These are actually actively aggravated at you and trying to take you out, not just kind of brain dead. So I love that kind of. Again, that's a great addition to the AI. It needs to be said, of course, that Mad Chainsaw mode apparently is specific to the demo. That's not going to be in the main game. It remains to be seen whether this sort of recolored Dr. Salvador from main Chainsaw mode shows up in the main game in anywhere. He might be, I imagine, my prediction will be that maybe he's a mercenaries mode thing for when that eventually comes.
Maybe.
And he's got his sort of fiery chainsaw. So, yeah, it seems a waste to do that for the demo and not use it in the main game in some form. But I could be wrong. Could be demo exclusive. It's kind of nice all the same. But, yeah, we haven't really talked about him. And I guess we talked about surviving until it's time for bingo. Which, by the way, the fact they put the line in there is good.
I love it.
Obviously, a lot of people took issue with them moving around some of Jill's lines in the last remake. So I think they had to put this at least in the right place. But yeah, nobody seems to know whether it's, do enough. I thought it was if you do enough damage to. So I was running straight into the building to spawn Dr. Salvador and then doing as much damage as possible. And my quickest playthroughs have been because of that. But other people seem to think that no, it's a time-based thing. So I don't even know. It seems random as
It's-
hell. Whatever. Like I don't care how long it takes. I'm just having fun. But for the people that are
Yeah,
trying to
having a good
speed
time.
run it, it's like yeah, it's weird.
The demo is really freaking weird. Like, cause I've played this demo a lot, guys. Like maybe an embarrassing amount of time, right? And I have like perfected. I've timed every section of this demo. Like it's 3 minutes to get to the village. Like it's upwards of 7 minutes, like in Mad Chainsaw mode, before the bells might ring. But I don't know, because when I'm playing in normal mode, like sometimes I can get a near 6 minute timer on that, right after killing him, right, and other times I'll get like an 8-9 minute timer before the bells go off. I think it's completely random.
I think it is. I think it's completely random, and again, it's all to keep you on your toes in terms of RE4. That's what it does. So I've got no complaints really. Speaking of Dr. Salvador, by the way, I guess just in general, how do we feel about him? I have to say the death animations are superb. They've been doing arounds a lot on Twitter, but some of them are fantastic.
Oh my goodness.
Berger, how do you feel about, as we keep calling them apparently, Sally?
Sorry.
Sally is much like Spider-Man, an absolute menace. He's terrifying. You can kill him, and when he kills you, it is very satisfying. It's what I expect of a Resident Evil game. Like I want to die by the special enemy in a gruesome way that is going to leave me scarred for the rest of the day.
Yeah. I'm not so mad about being killed by him because I got to sort of see the horrible death animation.
Oh my goodness! And especially like when before we started recording the podcast, we watched James doing a Mad Chainsaw run, and just watching like as somebody's holding James back, and he's there, I'm dead now, and just blah right through. Oh my goodness, so cool. It makes me excited to see what other ways you can die.
He can also just like do that in a window, by the way. If he is near you and you try and just go through a window, he just sticks it through you. Like
That's so cool.
My favorite death animation so far, and I don't know if it was Sally or not, because I had like 5 Ganadas in front of me and Mad Chainsaw guy in front of me, right? But someone threw a tentacle through my skull. Right? It was like
what?
It just went through my head, right? And I was like, oh, that's new. I'll try and get it again and record it, because I didn't record it, but yeah, it's definitely a thing that I've seen. That is my favorite death so far, because it's so quick and unexpected that it just happens.
Oh boy. Okay, so I guess, how do we feel about the way the game looks? We talked about it a little bit, but we kind of danced around it. I haven't given it enough time, I guess. We talked about it off mic a little bit. I was saying that I recorded my demo playthrough and I put it on my PC just in case I need to use it for footage for any videos of any kind. And just watching it back, it looks, and my monitor's nothing special at all, but it looks amazing on my PC. Just watching it run back, I'm like, wow, this game is so good. And we were talking before, James, the fact that you can run this game on your PC with absolutely no problem speaks yet again to the strengths of the RE engine and how great the RE engine is. That a brand new 2023 game just runs pretty perfectly. Berger, how do you feel about Pretty Leon and Pretty RE4?
I love it. I played it on generally max settings that my computer's capable of. I'm running an RTX 2070, so it's a few years old at this point. It's not the best card out there. Playing it on a 2K resolution, and it's absolutely stunning. I was able to max it out generally with RTX on, ray tracing and all that stuff, and
nice.
Freaking blown away by how good this game looks.
Sorry, Berger, don't you have a 3070?
I have a 2070. No, I have a 2070. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure if the RTX is available for the 2070. That's all. I thought you had it.
No, I'm literally reading it right now.
Oh, my bad.
It's right next. It's my computer's right next to me. No, I absolutely. The game is stunning, but again, the RE engine has always looked great, right?
Yeah.
And I think talking about a game engine that stands the test of time, like Resident Evil 7 came out how long ago, and it was made on this engine?
6 years now.
And
Sony got better and better. Yeah.
They added ray tracing to it now, and that's the most recent upgrade. And it's still one of the best looking games I've played in a while.
Yeah. James, how you feel about the way that it looks?
It looks fantastic, and just like in terms of in a technical sense, I want to talk about the PC settings that you get. It has the best settings for like Resident Evil like I've ever seen in terms of the PC settings. Like there are so many
Yes,
like settings for
actually,
you to mess with.
I noticed that the first thing that I did when I boot up the game is pretty much the same thing I do with every game. I'm that person who goes and looks at the controls. So first of all, that's loop back round to something that I did want to say, that as the controls are set to A1, where crouch was circle, and I think R3 is Ashley controls or something. So A2 is literally the reverse. I was like, yes, I would like to crouch with the right stick. That makes sense to me. But then I flipped along, and yeah, there was a load of graphic settings on the console version as well. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like ray tracing was on there as a option and all stuff like that. So yeah, love that.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's yeah, so that I mean that's the first thing. It's got like something called FX fidelity, which means you can basically, if you have like a substandard dog poo PC like I do, like you can basically stick it into performance mode, and I can play at 60 FPS with medium settings, and it looks fantastic. I can't stream it at that, unfortunately. I don't know what it is like with Discord, but it won't let me stream that. It might be a limitation of my CPU. But yeah, it looks amazing, and it's got like a lot of accessibility options as well, which is very cool to see. I love that games are starting to do that now, and they're starting to be a bit more accessible, have a lot of quality of life stuff. Yeah, in terms of like the overall look of the game, yeah, it's very pretty. There is like Leon's hair is a bit weird. Like it looks okay, but it's like there's something off about it. I don't know what it is. It's a bit strange. Like Resident Evil 2 remake, Leon's hair looks better, like than Resident Evil 4 remake's hair on Leon does.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean in my eyes anyway. But yeah, Leon, he just has like this. Oh, he has this like diamond cut jawline.
Right.
Like he was pretty handsome in RE2. I think like, but he didn't have that squared diamond edged jawline in RE2 remake.
Lost the baby fat, James.
Say again.
He lost the baby fat.
He really did,
Yeah.
and he gained muscle. Like he seemed to go to cheek day,
Cheek day.
He's really, he's gone to Rivendell. He's gained those cheeks. He looks fantastic. And he fits as well, like into this. Like I had concerns that his visual style was not really gonna mesh.
Yeah.
Like from RE2 remake, but he just fits. And then we've got, I want to talk about the Ganados, but like I'll let you guys do that. But like Dr. Sally is such a cool design.
Creepy.
Like every time I see him, like they know what they're doing. Like every time I see his face, like his eyes are just too far apart. It's like they're not like super wide, but they're not super close. They're just wide, and they're perfectly circle as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Just staring into your soul, aren't they?
Yeah, it's so. I think there was like it wasn't this one that just went by, but the previous like showcase that happened. They started talking about Dr. Salvador, and basically like they were saying we don't really want to change much about him, but we also want to make him look human. We had all these like concept arts about how we want to do Dr. Salvador, and they were all very alien and like but we want to make him look human because that's what the original that's what made the original RE4 so like classic in terms of the visual style, was that everything was human, but there was just something a bit odd like about everything. And I spoke about it earlier on with the clicking and the broken neck, the Ganados, which you don't see a lot of. I do encourage people to get your shotgun and just blast center left or center right to a body of a Ganado, because their entire body just shreds. It looks gross, but great at the same time.
Amazing. Burger, how are you feeling about the visuals to sort of wrap us up?
I love them. The Resident Evil, the RE engine has always impressed me with its like, mesh manipulation stuff on the technical side. Um, Even going so far back as, the deformation you got on, uh, Mr. Baker in Resident Evil 7. That one scene in Remake 2 when you pick up the officer's neck and parts of his esophagus kind of just flop out. And continue on to this when you have the Pre-Wibbly, and you kill the Pre-Wibbly, and then you see the Wibblies in the Pre-Wibbly state after still like hanging out, which I don't quite trust it. The head kind of just flops too in a really fun way as they're kind of walking around. Loved it, absolutely stunning. I floored. I can't wait. I can't wait to see more. I can't wait to play it entirely. And I was gonna wait. Now, like having played the demo, I'm gonna have to get it sooner.
Day one.
Given my luck with GameFly, probably day 3 or 4.
Okay.
Just a quick shout out to Hunnigan, who we get to see. I know we saw the scenes in the trailers and stuff, but it is cool to get to see her like that. Which we've seen that in other Resident Evil projects since. I was thinking about it this week. She's kind of become like a really established character, not like really established in terms of personality, but she's had so many appearances now. Because she basically shows up whenever Leon does, and we get. In RE4, we never got to see much of her beyond, a little window in a codec, but now we actually get to see a shot of her in her office or whatever. So that's cool. And also, just in general, I love that this demo starts us out in, pitch blackness outside. Don't know what time it is, but it's obviously really early hours of the morning, because by the time you get to the village, it's the sort of beginning of dawn. And we go from night into day over the course of the demo, just going throughout those buildings. So we get to see different lighting styles for the game just in the demo alone. That's really cool. I'm excited to see where it goes beyond that through the day, different cycles of day that the demo, that the full game might give us. And also, while we're here, it's worth saying that apparently Capcom have announced a day 1 patch to fix the rain. So
Yay!
Everyone celebrate. That's a thing that's going to happen apparently. So we can look forward to that part of the game now instead of dreading it like I was.
God, same. I still don't understand people who are defending that race. I just don't understand.
Which brings me on to like final thoughts and hype checks. I mean, that rain was, I know it sounds silly, but that was basically the only thing I was really that concerned about. And it was kind of a silly complaint, but also not. But now that I know that that's planned to be fixed, and having had my hands on the demo, I was pretty excited before, but now I'm ready. Give it to me now. I'm super excited to see how other parts of this game are, if they're treated the same or, changed, or even, more new stuff. I really like that intro from taking control of Leon to the village, because it was fresh and exciting, and I loved walking through the sort of canyons of the mountainside and stuff. I love outside Resident Evil is always fun and spooky, so I'm excited to see the locations this game has on offer for us in terms of everything else. Burger, where's your hype at for RE4? How did you feel about the demo overall?
I loved it. Sorry, I'm articulating. I was kind of, generally in the space I am for most remakes prior to playing the demo of like, it's a remake. I'll play it when I play it. I'm obviously gonna play it because I'm a big fan of the series. But I might wait a bit. I got a couple of games on my docket right now. But now that having played the demo, I'm back in, what was it, 2004, 2005?
2005, yeah.
Yeah, 2005. I'm back in that time where I'm like, God, I just want to play it some more. I can't. There's stuff I just can't wait to do. I can't wait to walk up to that lake for the first time and shoot the lake. Like dumb stuff like that I remember doing. I can't wait to fight El Gigante. I'm just eager.
Can't wait to shoot walls for spinels.
That's right. James.
Can't wait to smash crows.
Yes. James, how you feel about the demo overall? Where's your hype for RE4? And in fact, on that note, What's the thing? What's something that you're excited to do in the final game now that you've played the demo?
I'm sorry, guys, but my hype has gone a little bit down. Like,
Oh.
it was like, maximum hype, but the parry system I was very excited for. I was really excited to practice parrying and being able to just parry the entire game. That would have been super fun. But I don't think that is something you can do in this game.
Yeah.
Unless there's like some kind of skill that you can get or passive or something that helps you along with that. Like it has dampened down my hype, but if we're gonna do it out of 10, it's still at 9.
Nice.
It's still really high. Yeah, I can't wait to play this game. What am I excited to do? Yeah, I am very excited to find the collectibles. This demo's given us a little bit of a tease. If you go into one of the houses in the courtyard, I keep calling it the courtyard because I don't really know what else to call it. But the town square, I guess. But yeah, there's a little house in the town square that has a diamond lock key on it.
Oh, the little chest thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in one of the houses that, those little things, like, it's like, oh, see, we're teasing you, we got little collectibles. Like, I was like, oh, there's going to be a freaking tiara in here worth nothing, and then I can combine it with all these things, and it's going to be so cool. I hope that everything is combinable. Like, like everything you find, there's going to be some extra secret to it. I won't be disappointed if everything doesn't, but it would be cool to have that. So yeah, getting the collectibles, collecting all of them, and seeing Steve's face as well after he collects all the things, because Steve is a magpie and loves collecting everything in video games.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the Tarp Watch run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think this game, we've obviously been told a little bit that there's like side quests, and we know that treasures are a big part of RE4. So I am also similarly excited for that. There's a bit in the village. When you come in on the left, there's that building that you can't get into. If you go along the wall on the left, very clearly, you are meant to get over that wall with Ashley when you come back. So it's like, cool, something to come back and do. And, something that we raved on about Village being great was returning to the village and finding a bunch of new stuff. Yes, please, I would like to... I need more backtracking in my RE4, actually. I need it to be less linear. And I think that these kind of things kind of implicate that that's probably going to happen.
And just quickly, we got choice in this demo. We spoke in the spoilers for the wish list, but there's quite a lot of choice just in this demo alone about how you tackle things.
Right.
And like the choices you get in terms of like spawning Salvador and like how he spawns and stuff. So that's also really cool to see.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think that'll do it. We are, just a couple weeks out from the game. So expect our podcast on the final Resident Evil 4 remake finished product shortly after that. I kind of can't believe that it's happening from the game that we just sort of joked would get a remake, and now we're kind of like, this could actually be pretty great. So that's a thing. In the meantime, of course, make sure to go over to our YouTube. We got the RE4 episode of Wishlist coming out very soon as well to sustain your hype. James, myself, and Jordan talked about things that we want to see, don't want to see, and predict for the game. So yes, look forward to that. But otherwise, nothing else remains for me but to thank our contributors and our patrons once again. Support the show for as little as $1 a month to help us create more bonus content like this one over at patreon.com/FASprayPod. You can also join the Discord server to get in touch with members of the team and our community, discuss Resident Evil with us and other fans, and listen to the podcast live as it's recorded. You can find a link to the server, as well as our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, etc. at FASprayPod.com. You can find the podcast on YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes. And if you enjoyed the show, please do leave us a review where you can. It helps spread the word. Thank you to the panel. You can follow all the Pueblo people individually. I'm at Syniac_123. James is at Moist Owler OFF, and Burger is at It's Burger Time. And finally, thank you for listening, and have a good week.
That's what that rhyme is really about.
Is it? Oh, I don't know.
He's pickling his peppers, if you know what I mean.
No.
No, I don't either.
These are the outtakes that people come here for. This is the reason Shoji's here right now.
They're never going to be on bloopers though. Like,
No, well, I'm done with bloopers, so you're safe. Mostly because I'm too
we're
lazy.
just not that funny anymore, but
Yeah,
that's
that's
what it is.
pretty much what it is. I was like, yeah, these guys.
Yeah.